The Fallout franchise has been a great place for dozens of fantastic stories to be told, an outlet for creative individuals at Bethesda to bend this dreary take on apocalyptic America in different ways. Their most recent title, Fallout 76, was a deviation from the formula, not having the robust interactions that the franchise was known for. But after 2 years and across several updates, the game that was ridiculed for not having people to talk to now has people to talk to. Today, I wanted to focus on the latest of these episodic updates, the one that I believe best expresses the ways in which this franchise tells stories, asks questions, and challenges the player based on their own choices. This update was broken into 2 halves, together creating the storyline I'm choosing to call Fractured Steel. To start off, Steel Dawn follows the return of the Brotherhood of Steel to Appalachia, the setting where the game takes place. The Brotherhood faction have been a focal point in the Fallout franchise since the 90s, the remnants of the US military who believe in hoarding and preserving technology for the future, ensuring that the tools that ended the world once won't end it again. They're a flawed group. Most variants across the franchise take an authoritative stance, as a self-imposed government. Fallout 4 had them fly in on a massive blimp, demanding people do not interfere. Their airship a metaphor for their militaristic control complex before the player blows it up 82 hours into the average playthrough.
Never seen a prettier sight. Look at that thing.
Now this new chapter just shows up. Questions are asked from the different factions already established, Foundation and Crater. What's their goal? Are they friendly? No one knows and neither does the player, so let's go find out. Steel Dawn follows a primary cast of characters, each integral to the plot's progression and fitting a different segment of the Brotherhood's hierarchy. They include Knight Daniel Shin and Paladin Layla Romani. Oh, and of course you. Your involvement with these characters determines the narrative's final outcome, primarily based around who you choose to support throughout the campaign, either between Paladin Romani, the highest ranking officer, or her subordinate, Knight Shin. Each of these characters have their own viewpoints for how the Brotherhood should be structured. The power imbalance between them due to their respective ranking causes major conflict. I mean that literally. It's the first thing you see when you start the story.
I have no time to be babysitting civilians.
Your duties are what I say they are, Knight.
Their clashing views are the catalyst for every activity the player has to do, every quest relating to one of their opinions, their motives, their history, and mistakes made leading up to entering Appalachia. This tension never goes away. Sometimes if you aren't quick enough after a loading screen, you can miss a few seconds of dialogue because they just start arguing before the player could even be there to listen.
We have to act now.
Romani wants to be open, use the resources at the Brotherhood's disposal to assist everyone she can, build connections. Shin wants to continue following the views of the Elders, the rank of individuals above Paladins who are the basis for the Brotherhood's beliefs, keeping in line with conservatism and preserving technology. This conflict is the focal point of the narrative, how these clashing views slowly metabolize across the campaign. Steel Dawn ends with both these views reaching a fever pitch, before being cut off by a new threat brought about in the sequel, Steel Rain. Steel Rain follows a more streamlined narrative than Dawn, focusing on solving the mystery of missing persons around the region while still developing the primary cast, now including a new character, Dr. Edgar Blackburn. Blackburn is the closest thing Fractured Steel has to an antagonist. Throughout the story, you learn of a mercenary group trafficking people to his place of refuge. Blackburn has been doing lab tests on living people, trying to perfect a serum called FEV. FEV, across the franchise, is used to create super mutants, stronger than average people while also being immune to radiation. Most mutants are enemy characters, imbecilic brutes that speak broken English, a side effect that Blackburn seeks to remedy so that the people of Appalachia can be better prepared to live in a post-war era. During your expedition into Vault 96, you find dozens of audio logs, segments of Blackburn's research providing insight into his thought process.
The FEV seems almost deliberately malignant, as if it had a consciousness, and rejects my every attempt to bend it toward a benevolent end.
He's a man who knows the horrible things he's done, no pride in his sadism, and yet he feels that the ends justify the means. Once the Brotherhood captures him, he reveals that he has a contingency plan set up with his colleagues, flooding FEV into rivers and lakes in an effort to prove that his adjustments to the formula, months of work and sacrifice, have merit. Out of pure confidence in his plan's success, he leads you to his colleagues where they agree to work with the Brotherhood in exchange for Blackburn's safety. In a turn of events, Blackburn's contingency plan was a ruse, a false promise leading to him using their latest FEV sample on himself, a final test to not only prove his team's achievements, but also protect his peers from the Brotherhood. It doesn't go as planned. After dealing with what Blackburn turned himself into, all that's left to do is confront the other scientists and come to a consensus with Shin and Romani. Shin wants them killed for even associating with Blackburn, seeing the whole group as psychotics doing science experiments with human life, endangering everyone in West Virginia and the neighboring states by even considering to release the FEV. Romani sees an opportunity, take control of their work in an effort to constrain their research and let them continue in a controlled environment. She tries to appeal to Shin's belief in the Brotherhood, saying that their research monitored is exactly what the Elders would want, preserving technology that could end the world. The strongest part of Fractured Steel is how choices are used to ask nuanced questions to the player, questions that don't necessarily have a clear-cut answer. Should these scientists be allowed to continue their work, finish the project despite the fact that they were only able to get this far with the deaths of innocent lives? Or are they as much at fault as Blackburn was, associated with his crimes and hiding behind the guise of scientific discovery to protect themselves? Do the ends justify the means? Is having this theoretical serum in control of a military organization actually going to benefit Appalachia in any major way? If those benefits are legitimate, then the scientists, who were well aware of how Blackburn was getting his test subjects, aren't going to be brought to justice. I'm sure some people playing this feel they know what's the right thing to do, but the point is, not everyone is going to agree on what that is. This is how Fallout 76 tells engaging stories that the player can interact with and alter in meaningful ways. Fractured Steel is an excellent case study for teaching how to create compelling character drama, like with Shin and Romani, develop complex antagonists like Blackburn, and provide nuanced choices that can be interpreted by different people in different ways. My only complaint is how the consistency of Fallout 76 mechanically can make focusing on the story a little bit cumbersome during certain cutscenes. Despite this, 76 still has a lot worth analyzing. A continuous narrative that didn't start with Dawn but doesn't end with Rain, and I'm very excited to see what happens to the Brotherhood next.